Hey, it's kind of really starting to come down out there, huh? I don't mind it though. Spring rain is like my absolutely favorite type of rain. Yeah, because it gives you an excuse to just kind of lay back and get comfortable, read a really good book. Yeah, and it smells really good, and all the flowers start blooming, and after like the long winter we had, I am very grateful for it. I know it's kind of like a weird dreary type rain, but like it's not too dark out. I don't know, it's very nice in any case. I'm glad you can make it over. Yeah, it was just, well, you know me, an excuse to read. Here I am. But yeah, you can get comfortable. Oh, do you want the TARDIS blanket again? It is the absolutely most comfortable blanket in the entire world, in galaxy, and like the entire space. Okay, you can have this one. Oh, I'll show you the one that I got. Hopefully you're not going to be too jealous that I'm not sharing this one instead, but it's cats. I know. I told you not to be too jealous. Look at this, look. Oh my gosh. It's just cats. There's even like little paw prints. See? It's really pretty. And it's like a gorgeous color, and I don't know. It's so comfy. But, yeah, I mean, I guess if you want this one, you can have it, but no, you're fine with the TARDIS? Okay, cool. Like I said, it's very comfortable anyway, so we both have great blankets. So here you go. You can take this and put that around. So comfy. Isn't it comfy? Now we're comfy butts. So, you know, actually, I'm glad that you liked The Hobbit last time. I actually just finished this book, and I thought I would recommend it to you. Maybe kind of, I don't know, unless you have brought your own, but I could read you, like, the first chapter or so again, just to kind of see if you're interested. Well, since you're asking, it's called Practical Magic, and, yes, yeah, the movie with, Sandra Bullock. I've never seen the movie. No, I've seen, I know, it's like it comes out during Halloween, so you'd think I'd watch it, but, no, I haven't. Have you? Yeah, see, I don't know why I haven't yet. But, that movie came out, and I've seen, like, some scenes of it, and it's always, gotten my interest a lot. But I guess I just never saw it on TV when it was at the beginning. So I didn't want to just watch it in the middle. So, I don't know how I got this copy, actually. I just had it on my bookshelf for a long time, and I was like, well, I'll read it. I really am interested in that, so I'll read it. And I just never got to it until I saw it, and I was like, well, might as well, right? So I don't know where I got it, but it's like an old copy, and this just happened. So I had to be very careful with it today until I get, like, another copy or something. But it's, like, kind of getting old. But I love the moon. Practical magic. New York, best-selling author. Look at the moon. beautiful, moving book about the powers of love and the desires of the heart. And I just really love the way she describes things, and I don't know, it's like a very immersing book and just draws you in, and her descriptions are so well that you're just going through the lives of like the main characters in this book from like childhood until they're adults, and then their children or one of their children, but it's so good. Okay, so if I kind of won you over to let me read it. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, it would have been fine if you said no, too. I'm not trying to keep you captive and read things to you. And actually, she's got like all these books, and I can't believe I haven't read anything by Alice Hoffman before. So I'm definitely going to be looking for more. Okay. And it starts off with a little limerick from Mother Goose. Okay, so get comfortable. Are you ready? Okay. For every evil under the sun, there is a remedy, or there is none. If there be one, seek till you find it. If there be none, never mind. By Mother Goose. And that's it. That's the book. Okay, starts off. Superstition. For more than 200 years, the Owens women have been blamed for everything that had gone wrong in town. If a damp spring arrived, if cows in the pasture gave milk that was runny with blood, if a colt died of colic or a baby was born with a red mark stamped onto his cheek, everyone believed that fate must have been twisted, at least a little, by those women over on Mongolia Street. It didn't matter what the problem was, lightning or locusts, or death by drowning. It didn't matter if the situation could be explained by logic, or science, or plain bad luck. As soon as there was a hint of trouble, or the slightest misfortune, people began pointing their fingers and placing blame. Before long, they'd convinced themselves that it wasn't safe to walk past the Owens house after dark, and the most foolish neighbors would dare to peer over the black, wrought iron fence that circled the yard like a snake. Inside the house there were no clocks and no mirrors, and 3 locks on each and every door. Mice lived under the floorboards and on the walls, and often could be found in dresser drawers, where they ate the embroidered tablecloths, as well as the lacy edges of the linen placemats. 15 different sorts of wood had been used for the window seats and the mantels, including golden oak, silver ash, and a peculiar fragrant cherry wood that gave off the scent of ripe fruit even in the dead of winter, when every tree outside was nothing more than a leafless black stick. No matter how dusty the rest of the house might be, none of the woodwork ever need polishing. If you squinted, you could see your reflection right there in the wainscoting in the dining room, or the banister you held onto as you ran up the stairs. It was dark in every room, even at noon, and cool all through the heat of July. Anyone who dared to stand on the porch, where the ivy grew wild, could try for hours to look through the windows and never see a thing. It was the same looking out. The green-tinted window glass was so old and so thick that everything on the other side seemed like a dream, including the sky and the trees. The little girls who lived up in the attic were sisters, only 13 months apart in age. They were never told to go to bed before midnight or reminded to brush their teeth. No one cared if their clothes were wrinkled or if they spit on the street. All the while these little girls were growing up, they were allowed to sleep with their shoes on and draw funny faces on their bedroom walls with black crayons. They could drink cold Dr. Peppers for breakfast, if that was what they craved, or eat marshmallow pies for dinner. They could climb onto the roof, sit perched on the slate peak, leaning back as far as possible in order to spy the first star. There they would stay on windy March nights or humid August evenings, whispering, arguing over whether it was feasible for even the smallest wish to ever come true. The girls were being raised by their aunts, who, as much as they might have wanted to, simply couldn't turn their nieces away. The children, after all, were orphans whose careless parents were so much in love they failed to notice smoke emanating from the walls of the bungalow where they had enjoyed a second honeymoon after leaving the girls' home with the babysitter. No wonder the sisters always shared a bed during the storms. They were both terrified of thunder and could never speak above a whisper once the sky began to rumble. When they finally did doze off, their arms wrapped around each other, they often had the exact same dreams. There were times when they could complete each other's sentences. Certainly each could close her eyes and guess what the other most desired for dessert on any given day. But in spite of their closeness, the two sisters were entirely different in appearance and temperature. In temperament. Excuse me. Aside from the beautiful gray eyes the Owens women's were known for, no one would have reason to guess the sisters were related. Gillian was fair and blonde, while Sally's hair was black as the pelts of an ill-mannered cats the aunts allowed to skulk through the garden and claw at the draperies in the parlor. Gillian was lazy and liked to sleep past noon. She saved up her allowance money, then paid Sally to do her math homework and iron her party dress. She drank bottles of Yoo-Hoo and ate goopy Hershey bars while sprawled out on the cool basement floor, content to watch as Sally dusted the metal shelves where the aunts kept pickles and preserves. Gillian's favorite thing in the world to do was to lie on the velvet-cushioned window seat up on the landing, where the drapes were made of damask, and the portrait of Maria Owens, who had built the house so long ago, collected dust in the corner. That's where she could be found on summer nights and afternoons, so relaxed and languid that moths would land on her, mistaking her for a cushion, and proceed to make tiny holes in her t-shirt and jeans. Sally, 397 days older than her sister, was as conscientious as Gillian was idle. She never believed in anything that could not be proven in facts and figures. When Gillian pointed to a shooting star, it was Sally who reminded her that what was falling to earth was only an old rock, heated by its descent through the atmosphere. Sally was a take-charge sort of person from the start. She didn't like confusion and mess, both of which filled her aunt's old house on Mongolian Street from attic to cellar. From the time she was in 3rd grade and Gillian 2nd, Sally was the one who cooked healthy dinners of meatloaf and fresh green beans and barley soup, using recipes from a copy of Joy Cooking she'd managed to smuggle into the house. She fixed their lunchboxes each morning, packing up turkey and tomato sandwiches on a whole wheat bread, adding carrot sticks and iced oatmeal cookies, all of which Gillian tossed in the trash the instant after Sally had deposited her in her classroom, since she preferred the sloppy joes and brownies sold in the school cafeterias, and often had swiped enough quarters and dimes from the aunt's coat pockets to buy herself whatever she liked. Night and day, the aunts called them, and although neither girl laughed at this little joke or found it amusing in the least, they recognized the truth in it, and were able to understand, earlier than most sisters, that the moon is always jealous of the heat of the day, just as the sun always longs for something dark and deep. They kept each other's secrets well. They crossed their hearts and hoped to die if they should ever slip and tell, even if the secret was only a cat's tail pulled or some foxglove stolen from the aunt's garden. The sisters might have sniped at each other because of their differences. They might have grown nasty, then grown apart, if they'd been able to have any friends. But the other children in town avoided them. No one would dare play with the sisters, and most girls and boys crossed their fingers when Sally and Gillian drew near, as if that sort of thing was any protection. The bravest and wildest boys followed the sisters to school, at just the right distance behind, which allowed them to turn and run if need be. These boys liked to pitch winter apples or stones at the girls, but even the best athletes, the ones who were the stars of their little league teams, could never get a hit when they took aim at the Owens girls. Every stone, each apple, always landed at the sisters' feet. For Sally and Gillian, the days were filled with little mortifications. No child would use a pencil or a crayon directly after it had been touched by an Owens girl. No one would sit next to them in the cafeteria or during assemblies. And some girls actually shrieked when they wandered into the girls' room to pee or gossip or brush their hair, and found they had stumbled upon one of the sisters. Sally and Gillian were never chosen for team during sports, and even though Gillian was the fastest runner in town and could hit a baseball over the roof of the school onto Etiquette Street, they were never invited to parties or Girl Scout meetings, or asked to join in and play hopscotch or climb a tree. "Fuck them all," Gillian would say, her beautiful little nose in the air as the boys made spooky goblin noises when the sisters passed them in the hallways at school on the way to music or art. "Let them eat dirt. You wait and see. One day they'll beg us to invite them home, and we'll laugh in their faces." Sometimes, when she was feeling particularly nasty, Gillian would suddenly turn around and shout, "Boo!" And some of the boys always pissed in his pants, and was far more humiliated than Gillian had ever been. Sally didn't have the heart to fight back. She wore dark clothes and tried not to be noticed. She pretended she wasn't smart and never raised her hand in class. She disguised her own nature so well that after a while she grew uncertain of her own abilities. By then, she was as quiet as a mouse. When she opened her mouth in the classroom, she could only squeak out wrong answers. In time, she made sure to sit in the back of the room and to keep her mouth firmly shut. Still, they would not let her be. Someone put an open ant farm in her locker when Sally was in 4th grade, and so that for weeks she found squashed ants between the pages of her books. In 5th grade, a gang of boys left a dead mouse in her desk. One of the cruelest children had glued a name tag to the mouse's back. Sally had been scrawled in crude letters, as Sally took not the slightest pleasure in the misspellings of her name. S-A-L-I is how they misspelled it. She had cried over the small little curled-up body and its tiny whiskers and its perfect paws, and when her teacher had asked what was wrong, she only shrugged, as though she'd lost the power of speech. One beautiful April day, when Sally was in 6th grade, all of the aunt's cats followed her to school. After that, even the teachers would not pass her in an empty hallway and would find an excuse to head in the other direction. As they scurried away, the teachers smiled at her oddly, and perhaps they were afraid not to. Black cats can do that to some people. They make them go all shivery and scared and remind them of dark, wicked nights. The aunt's cats, however, were not particularly frightening. They were spoiled and liked to sleep on couches, and they were all named for birds. There was Cardinal, and Crow, and Raven, and Goose. There was a gawky kitten named Dove, and an ill-tempered Tom called Magpie, who hissed at the others and kept them at bay. It would be difficult to believe that such a mangy bunch of creatures had come up with such a plan to shame Sally, and that is what seemed to happen, although They may have followed her on that day simply because she had fixed a tuna sandwich for lunch, just for herself, as Gillian was pretending to have strep throat and was home in bed, where she was sure to stay for the best part of a week, reading magazines and eating candy bars with no cares when it came to getting chocolate on the sheets, since Sally was the one who took responsibility for the laundry. On this morning, Sally didn't even know the cats were behind her, till she sat down at her desk. Some of her classmates were laughing. The 3 girls had jumped up onto the radiator and were shrieking. Anyone would have thought a gang of demons had entered the room, but it was only those flea-bitten creatures that had followed Sally to school. They paraded past chairs and desks, black as night and howling like banshees. Sally shooed them away, but the cats just came closer. They paced back and forth in front of her, their tails in the air, meowing in voices so horrible the sound could have curdled milk in the cup. "Scat!" Sally whispered when Magpie jumped into her lap and began kneading his claws into her nicest blue dress. "Go away," she begged him. But even when Miss Mullins came in and smacked her desk with a ruler and used her sternest voice to suggest that Sally had better get rid of the room of cats, tout de suite, or risk detention, the revolting beasts refused to go. A panic had spread, and the more high-strung of Sally's classmates were already whispering witchery. A witch, after all, was often accompanied by a familiar, an animal to do her most evil bidding. The more familiars there were, the nastier the bidding, and here was an entire troop of disgusting creatures. Several children had fainted. Some would be phobic about cats for the rest of their lives. The gym teacher was sent for, and he waved a broom around, but still the cats would not leave. A boy in the rear of the room, who had just stolen a pack of matches from his father just that morning, now made use of the chaos in the classroom and took the opportunity to set Magpie's tail on fire. The scent of burning fur quickly filled the room, and even before Magpie began to scream, Sally ran to the cat without stopping to think, and she knelt down and smothered the flames with her favorite blue dress. "I hope something awful happens to you," she called to the boy who set Magpie afire. Sally stood up, the cat cradled in her arms like a baby, her face and dress dirty with soot. "You'll see what it's like then," she said to the boy. "You'll know how it feels." Just then, the children in the classroom directly overhead began to stomp their feet. Out of joy, since it had been revealed that their spelling tests had been eaten by their teacher's English bulldog, an acoustic tile fell onto the horrid boy's head. He collapsed to the floor in a heap, his face ashen in spite of his freckled complexion. "She did it!" some of the children cried, and the ones who did not speak aloud had their mouths wide open, and their eyes even wider. Sally ran from the room with Magpie in her arms and the other cats following. The cat zigzagged around under her feet all the way home, and down Etiquette and Peabody streets, through the front door and up the stairs, and all afternoon they clawed at Sally's bedroom door, even after she locked herself inside. Sally cried for 2 hours straight. She loved the cats, that was the thing. She sneaked them saucers of milk and carried them to the vet on Etiquette Street in a knitting bag when they fought and tore at each other and their scars became infected. She adored those horrible cats, especially Magpie, and yet sitting in her classroom, embarrassed beyond belief, she would have gladly watched each of them be drowned in a bucket of icy water or shot with a BB gun. Even though she went out to care for Magpie as soon as she'd collected herself, cleaning his tail and wrapping it in cotton gauze, she knew she had betrayed him in her heart. From that day on, Sally thought less of herself. She did not ask the ants for special favors, or even request those small rewards that she deserved. Sally could not have been a more intractable and uncompromising judge. She found herself lacking in compassion and fortitude, and the punishment was self-denial from that moment on. After the cat incident, Sally and Gillian became more feared than ignored. The other girls in school no longer teased. Instead, they quickly walked away when the Owens sisters passed by. They all kept their eyes cast down. Rumors of witchcraft spread in notes passed from desk to desk. Accusations were whispered in hallways and bathrooms. Those children who had black cats of their own begged their parents for a different pet, a collie or a guinea pig or even a goldfish. When the football team lost, when a kiln in the art room exploded, everyone looked toward the Owens girls. Even the rowdiest boys did not dare to hit them with dodgeballs at recess or aim spitballs in their direction. Not a single one threw apples or stones. At slumber parties and Girl Scout meetings, there were those who swore that Sally and Gillian could induce a hypnotic trance that would make you bark like a dog or jump right off a cliff, if they so desired. They could put a spell on you with a single word or a nod of their heads. And if either of the sisters were truly angry, all she needed to do was recite the 9 times tables backwards, and that would be the end of you. The eyes in your head would melt, flesh and bones would turn into pudding. They'd serve you in the school cafeteria the very next day, and no one would be the wiser. But the children in town could whisper whatever rumors they wished. But in truth, was most of their mothers had gone to see the aunts at least once in their lives. Occasionally someone might appear who wanted red pepper tea for a persnickety stomach, or butterfly weed for nerves. But every woman in town knew that the aunts' real business was. Their specialty was love. The aunts were not invited to potluck suppers or library fundraisers, but when a woman in town quarreled with her lover, when she found herself pregnant by someone who wasn't her husband, or discovered that the man she'd married was unfaithful as a hound, then there she'd be at the Owens back door, just after twilight, the hour when the shadows could hide your features, so that no one would recognize you as you stood beneath the wisteria. A tangled vine that had grown above the door for longer than anyone in town had been alive. It didn't matter if a woman was the 5th grade teacher at the elementary school, or if she was the pastor's wife, or perhaps the longtime girlfriend of the orthodontist on Peabody Street. It didn't matter that people swore blackbirds dropped from the sky, ready to peck out your eyes when you approached the Owens house from the east. Desire had a way of making a person oddly courageous. In the ants' opinion, you could sneak up on a grown woman and turn her from a sensible creature into something as foolish as a flea that kept chasing after the same old dog. Once someone had made the decision to come back to the back door, she was more than ready to drink any royal tea, prepared with ingredients that couldn't even be spoken aloud, which would surely bring on bleeding that night. She'd already decided to let one of the ants prick the 3rd finger on her left hand with a silver needle, if that's what it took to give her darling back once more. The ants clucked like chickens whenever a woman walked up the bluestone path. They could read desperation in the path a mile away. A woman who was the head over heels and wanted to make certain her love couldn't be returned would be happy to hand over a cameo that had been in her family for generations. One who had been betrayed would pay even more. But those women who wanted someone else's husband, they were the worst. They would do absolutely